Hey guys, good morning. Hello, hello. Oh my goodness. It's Drops of Light. No, it's not Drops of Light. It's Chat with Matt. Hello, hello. Drops of Light's my other one on Saturdays. So, here it is. It's April Fool's. It's the 1st of April here in New Zealand. It's Wednesday morning. It's 9 a.m. We're here to give you half an hour of our time or thereabouts to chat about whatever's going on. I haven't even looked yet. I'm going to have a look to see if anyone wrote in anything ahead of time. I just had a massive amount of awesome. I just got a million things. No, well, a million. I'm exaggerating, of course. Hey, Darren. Hey, Mary. Just trying to get back to Bright Life Facilitators, see if anyone wrote in anything. I'm very open for questions, though, to come from the floor. There's me, so that's good. I'm on the right place. Where did I put the notification for this? Here we go. Louise wrote in something. Good enough as any place to start. Hi, Matt. So when you feel resistance, and she capitalized you, so she's talking about me. So when you feel resistance, how do you process it so you get beyond it? How do you know if the resistance is actually supporting you or holding you back? How do you know if the resistance is actually supporting you or holding you back? Hey, Narinda. Well, that's just a matter of, and when we talk about resistance supporting us, basically you mean, do you know whether it's, what's that stuff called? Intuition, right? Our resistance is intuition to say that something's not going to work for us. I think that's what you mean when you mean resistance supporting us, right? When we feel resistant to something because it's actually information that something isn't going to benefit us in the longer term. How do you know the difference? For me, it's about doing my meditation practice regularly enough that if I don't know in the moment, right, if I don't know immediately, then through my next meditation or successive meditations that I bring that inquiry to light, that I get a better intuitive feel or a better deep feeling, not an emotional feeling, but a deeper understanding, or what I would call knowing, right? Knowing with a capital K, that you just know whether something is your own fear-based BS or an understanding that perhaps something's not, even though you egoically want to do something, that perhaps it's not really in alignment with you. Perhaps you're feeling the out of alignment, the inherent out of alignment, as opposed to the surface waves of your own resistance holding you out of doing something. So cutting back to the first part of the question, so when you feel resistance, meaning me, how do you process so you get beyond it? I'm not sure if I process in like the term of doing an actual process, but I definitely progress through the process of getting beyond it, which is basically just to keep choosing and to keep relaxing through that choice process. So unfortunately, when you start feeling resistance, our natural egoic tendency is to fight back, to push back, to argue against it. A lot of the time, our mind wants to start justifying why we should do what we're feeling resistance to doing. And that doesn't actually help. Not for any length of time anyway. Having an understanding of why we're choosing to do it, right? A deeper why, the bigger why we're choosing to step beyond our resistance is great and very, very important. I was just saying, I think in my Drops of Light on Saturday morning, that you're only going to step past your resistance once your why for doing anything is greater than the resistance, right? Once you have a more momentum behind you than you have resistance in front of you, you're going to move forward. So building our momentum up, building our why up, building our reasons for wanting to be expansive, despite the fact that we have resistance against being expansive and we have desires to be small and insignificant on an egoic level, just to be happy with, quote unquote, survive, right? Not get into trouble, not draw attention to ourselves, just, keep our head down, make ends meet, get enough to eat, and perhaps, a little bit of pleasure tucked in the side here and there, and we should be happy with that. That'd be a great outcome, thank you very much, from the egoic mind. But from our soul self, we're here to fucking soar, right? We're here to actually express ourselves. We're here to align with our heart and be more of the truth of us here on this planet. So there's this push-pull going on, right? Where the resistance is wanting to stay small, and we've got all of these reasons in our distant past why it's dangerous to be more of ourselves, why we shouldn't take the risk, why it's stupid to stick our neck out and to reach for the stars, and we should just avoid all pain by staying small and insignificant. So how do I process through it is basically just a consistent remembrance of the process and a consistent being willing to make choice in a very calm way, not to allow too much emotion to get behind those choices. So my why isn't coming from emotion. I want to win, right? I'm going to show this resistance. I'm going to prove myself worthy. That don't work. I know I've operated from there before. It doesn't work, right? We get all riled up, but we don't make good decisions from that space, and we certainly don't really align with the inherent, deeper, authentic confidence within us, right? We don't really align with our light. We're operating from our mentality of wanting to be right, of wanting to win. And, there's a very famous saying, would you rather be right or happy? Because it's very hard to have both. When the ego's in charge and you're just trying to be right, you tend to, you get little hits of satisfaction, of course, when you prove yourself right, because the ego loves that, and yeah, I'm happy for a moment. But the deeper sense of what happiness really is, which comes from a peace, right? Not needing to keep winning victories to get the satisfaction, but actually just a deep, inherent, relaxed sense of purpose in who you be. You don't get that, right? And that's for me, that's real happiness, right? When you don't need to keep forcing the issue, when you can just take it as it is and make the choice that you feel to make and be happy either way, right? Hey, Sister Kelly. Hey, Lena. So how am I going? Am I answering that for you, Louise? I'm not sure that you're here. There's a bunch of people here, but I've kind of lost track of it. Maybe you're not. I haven't seen your name. You usually say hi if you were. Actually, has anyone said hi? No one. Everyone's showed me that I'm watching a whole heap of people, but sometimes, no, I don't know. Sometimes Facebook doesn't even show me comments. So I went through a period of that for a while. But I have got a way around it, because if I come back up here, I may see that Mary said, hey, Matt. Oh, no, I saw that right at the start. That was on my screen, wasn't it? No, it wasn't. Interesting. Okay. Right. Well, I think I'll see your comments if you do write them in. Perhaps Facebook will show them to me. I'm definitely not going to watch my own face talking to me in 10-second lag. But what else, my friends? What else is going on for you? I've had a very interesting night, I have to say. It wasn't a very pleasant night. Found myself processing a lot of fear. And it was coming up in really weird ways. Like I had these dreams of being scared of heights and trying to get across this narrow bridge. I'm not scared of heights. But I had this friggin' dream, processing this dream last night. And it was sort of recurring, one of those bloody recurring ones, because there was a point of me, I think, that was arguing, this is stupid, I'm not even scared of heights. But there was a part of me that wanted to process fear. And that's the way it was choosing to process fear, by showing me all these fear-based stories about not being able to get over this bridge because it didn't have a handrail on one side. Even though it had a handrail on the other side, there was other people involved as well. I think maybe it was showing me a little bit about my empathy there. Likelihood, hey Diana, likelihood to sponge energies from people. Not sure, but it was pretty fucking stupid. So worried about getting sucked over an edge. That I know that when it's like it's when it's real, like when you're frigging, standing on a rock ledge and you do actually have nothing to hang on to. I know that feeling that there's that void that pulls you off. This is hanging onto a handrail. It's like, I've worked at heights a lot of my life and I don't really worry about, I don't have that issue. I respect the idea of falling. Definitely. I'm not foolhardy. but I'm not scared of the actual concept of height. In my waking reality anyway, but obviously in my dream reality I was last night. Amongst other things. So there's a lot of fear being processed at the moment, which is draining, to be honest. It feels draining, right? My alarm went off and I felt freaking tired, even though I had been in bed for quite some time. Anywho, so that's going on. I don't know if you guys are experiencing something similar. I don't actually know if you guys can comment to me at the moment. It seems like I'm getting a lot of notifications that people are watching, but very few, or actually no, comments that people are writing anything in. Anywho, and I don't know, because if you are writing in saying, hey, I'm writing in, I can't see that. That's frustrating. But maybe you're not. Maybe you're just sitting there going, let's hang Matt out to dry, and we'll just let him talk for half an hour and chat with Matt without giving him anything. So moving on, how do we deal with this time at the moment? We're moving here in New Zealand. We're moving into our 7th day of official lockdown. Maria and I have been incredibly busy launching a online yoga school, which has done very, very well to start with, which is great, and has definitely given us something to do. And I'm sort of pulled now in one more direction, but that's all good. It's all good. Lots of course, uncertainty out there with retreats and how we're going to reschedule those. And which ones might go at their original schedule and where we might fit it all and how, and then dealing, can of worms. That's the biggest thing about right now, is there's so much uncertainty. We just don't know. We're kind of like, well, we can't really make a decision. Let's hang on for another couple of weeks, see if we get a better idea of what's going to happen worldwide with these lockdowns as we sort of get toward the end of the first 4-week round. Airlines, of course, have been very quick to put their hands up and say they're closing down till June, which is rather interesting that they're taking such a pessimistic view that no one's going to be wanting to travel till June. Rather interesting that they seem to have some information that this thing's going to go on longer than potentially, if it was a real viral thing, then it might. Anyway, interesting. I still feel lots of different manipulation going on in multiple ways, multiple directions with this whole situation. I'm not prepared to draw a conclusion about what's true and what's not, and what is, fact and fiction, because from where I sit, it is such a messy thing that it's hard to see anything as being really factual and anything being pure fiction. It's intertwined and as I said, it's messy. It's very, very messy. So it's an interesting state to be in. Of course, my mind, just like many of you, will be wanting to get some understanding of what's going on out there, and so we go looking. I have spent more time than perhaps I should have. Actually, definitely I should have. Looking at different YouTube videos that have been posted on social media about someone's theory about this, someone's theory about that, someone's theory about something else. And I watch a lot of them and go, well, that's a lot of bullshit. And yet there's some truth in there. But potentially what I'm coming to process, as I was thinking about this morning in my meditation, is that really serving me to go down that route? Or would it be more serving for me just to stay very strong in my intention for where my outcome is coming out of this thing, rather than to try and make sense of what various entities, people and beings and corporations are trying to achieve from this experience. So, it's an interesting ground to walk on, because, obviously we are all indoctrinated into the idea that knowledge is power, and that if I know something about someone else trying to do this, then I'm going to be able to thwart them. But is that really true? In any situation, and particularly in this situation, I think it can be true in some situations, of course. And I think that's where our empathic abilities, right, our psychic abilities come in a lot of the time, where we do get a good understanding that someone else is up to something that is not for the highest and best good, and then we can employ a little bit more of our intention and our attention around fortifying our outcomes to make sure that we're not railroaded by someone else's selfish or whatever dark intention. But right now, it's easy to get railroaded from our own strong intention by falling into anger or frustration or fear around what other perceived powerful people may be trying to achieve. It's a very interesting ground to tread right now. And with all that, I think it's an incredibly beneficial time to be treading this ground, right? It's interesting, it's intense, it's triggering and highly charged, and that is a great playground for us to make good progress in becoming empowered in our freedom, becoming authentically confident in ourselves, because it's becoming more and more clear that there is no there's no security out there. There's no security out there in the world. And there never has been. It's just becoming more and more obvious that that's the truth. And our own real security, our only real security is in our own heart. It's in our own knowing. It's in our own beingness. And the understanding that our beingness can't really be harmed, no matter what goes on out there in the world around us. Okay, so I have now refreshed my page and I've seen all of your comments come up. Well, I've seen some comments because actually if I click on this, sorry, we don't want to hear that. We want to double click on this, and then I think I can scroll right back through all of your comments. Which direction does it go in? This is the start. Yeah, Darren, it is overwhelming. So I'm just going back through the comments now. Darren wrote in and said, dealing with kids, homeschooling and business at the same time, it's overwhelming. It is really, really easy to get overwhelmed right now, especially with also the news from outside of us, right? Our minds are getting stretched. Now, I've talked about overwhelm before. Overwhelm's not a bad thing. Overwhelm is basically the process of growing. It's the process of us increasing our capacity to deal with more stuff. So that's great. But firstly, you have to have understanding that that's what overwhelm is, that you are getting pushed and it's not a wrongness and it's not you failing, right? So you have to be compassionate with yourself and understand that you're being called to operate in ways that you are not practiced at, right? You're not practiced at maintaining homeschooling while trying to run your freaking business, right? And it's really frustrating, as well as, maintaining the house, and it's not just the homeschooling, it's now the kids are home, and we're needing to do other things with them as well. So I get it. Many of us are being stressed. Some people, of course, are having a complete shutdown holiday rest because they're getting paid by their company. They've got no work to do. They live on their own, or and they're dealing with boredom. Some people are dealing with boredom. Others of us are dealing with, holy shit, I've got a lot to do. I've got a lot of clients who are reaching out for help. I feel drawn to put my services out into the world, and all of this extra stitch happening around me because now everyone else is home. I don't have my space as I used to, kids and whatnot, and things need to be done. Not to mention, here we've got our harvest going on, right? Marie and I have been preserving and bloody dehydrating peaches going out of style. Pretty much come to the end of the peaches now. The apples are next, and then the feijoas. We won't starve in a short term for fruit anyway. But But, just things, and, we let it slip a little bit. A couple of days we didn't get to it and ended up throwing out, half a box of very nice peaches because they'd gone off, which was, a shame. Anywho, so yeah, there's lots happening, and all we can do is do our best in it and prioritize how we spend our time in the moment, right? And not beat ourselves up that we didn't get to something that we wanted to. I've been letting a lot of my business slip because other things have been high priority at this time. Yeah, Diane said, yeah, night times, various faces. Yeah, and that's also potential, Mary. Mary wrote in because I was talking about I had dreams last night that I was scared of heights when I'm not really scared of heights, or I was scared of, getting sucked off this friggin' bridge thing. Perhaps it's not physical heights that this was about, and that's possible. Darren's not sleeping either very well. Yeah, lots of fear being processed at night for me too. And so I understand we're processing fear for the collective, those of you on this call pretty much, and so not to judge yourself based on that. Yeah, Mary's very good at dream processing. So the railing was missing because of the uncertainty and the lack of security in our external world, right? The hand railings are getting taken off our high bridges. Yeah, Diane, exactly. Coming to the same conclusion about all of the external possibilities and probabilities, and coming to the same conclusion, meaning all we can do is maintain our intention on where we are going and not get too worried about trying to understand. I just crashed Facebook. That's not fun. And not getting too concerned about what's right and wrong out there in terms of the truth in various quote-unquote conspiracies, quote-unquote conspiracies. I actually did a fast time yesterday. I walked up my hill. It was the first time I left the house in a week, pretty much. I did my hill walk last night. I did a new best time, shaved 5 seconds off my previous best time, which was poured with rain on me. And it wasn't raining until I got there. A few drops hit the car as I was getting out of the car. I looked up and went, oh, that'll pass. Headed off with my sticks up the friggin' hill. Luckily, it's quite dense forest that I was walking through, but it poured down. I got soaked. And this track, which is slippery at best, turned into like a stream. So it was good. It was good for my soul, being out in the forest and it all wet. It was good for my heart because it was going flat chat as I was, walking very, very fast up my hill. And it was good for my inner child because I was just sort of sloshing through the puddles and I gave up very quick in trying to keep mud off me and just went for it. So we had a good time, and it's always fun when you do a fast time, right? So overall, it was all good. On the way down, I met someone coming up, and we stayed our 2-minute distance pretty much, although we were both laughing about it, talking about various conspiracy theories going on. He was a conspiracy theorist as well. He didn't have his tin hat on, but he was talking about how this is just crazy, this whole shutdown thing, in a way. Anyway, people are it's a very, very charged subject because people are very much in fear, maybe not just for themselves, but for elderly people they know. And, let's face it, Marie and I both have elderly parents. And, this whole fear around being responsible or fear around not being irresponsible is massive, right? Massive. And there's so much judgment out there in the community and so much quote unquote mistrust, and so many people worried about being judged as being irresponsible, right? Don't want to let anyone else see you talking to someone else because we're supposed to be keeping our distance all the time. And it's like, whoa, it's full on. It's full on. So, I was just trying to make sure that I'm not missing anyone's comments because my phone's decided not to show me comments today. It just shows me that people are watching, but not showing me the comments. What else? Well, I've got to ask, what else do you want to know? And hopefully I'm going to see it here if I refresh this screen. I will see what people have written Yeah. Yeah, Mary, and it's easy to see the interconnectedness when you're out in the forest, right? And especially when it's raining, and so I was, yeah, I love it. I was a bit pissed with myself actually that I hadn't done it earlier, because I normally do it twice a week. I normally go to the gym 3 times a week. Obviously, the gym's gone out the window. I haven't done any gym, but I have been teaching yoga. But I normally teach yoga anyway, so teaching yoga at home now, in front of the camera, which is not nearly as easy as teaching yoga in front of people, because you just don't get that feedback. It's kind of like doing this. It's not as easy to have a conversation with you guys via my phone as it is, especially in this form where the writing's coming up on my computer. I'm not even getting written feedback, as it is to have a conversation face to face. But we have to do the best we can, because I'm here to help people, right? And so we just have to do the best that we can in the situations we're given. And connecting via the interwebs is awesome, even if it's not as easy. It's still awesome, because I can talk to you guys no matter where you are in the world, or no matter where I am in the world for that matter. It gives me location independence and means I have a wider pool of people to potentially serve. So, and now we've done that with our yoga school. So it's a matter of, just getting used to of having to do it to a camera, and then go through the palaver of having to, edit it a little bit, trim the top and the tail, and fix the volume because it's never loud enough. So then you have to go through and run a program to, sort out the volume levels, and then upload it, which takes time as well, and then upload it. So upload it first, upload it multiple times from my phone onto the computer, do the editing, then process it. That takes like the same length of time as the video it is. So if it's an hour video, it takes an hour to process, and then you get to upload it to friggin' Facebook, which takes time, and then it all takes time. It just takes a lot of time. But anyway, we'll get better at it. We'll get better at it as we go. The awesome thing is it's allowing us to keep serving our clients and extend our client base now, because now we can go international with our yoga school, which of course there's a good calling for right now. And we'll see how that goes as time progresses and people get back to their quote-unquote normal life, if we ever go back to what we call normal. But it will soon become normal, whatever we go back to, which no doubt will be a lot busier for some people than it is currently, and for others of us perhaps it won't be as busy as it's been currently. But needless to say, things will keep changing. Things will keep changing. Just doing a refresh on this to see if there's some more question. Inner child, Darren. It's quite a common term amongst my clientele. So the inner child is that aspect of you that's still aligned with being a child. Quite often the inner child is wounded. Quite often the inner child, so it's an aspect of our psyche, if I like. It's an aspect of our persona that's still, it's the inner child. It's that childlike aspect to ourself that gets quite often suppressed as we try and be sensible and responsible in our daily lives, but it's still there. And quite often the inner child is still carrying wounding from when it was the child, and we weren't seen in some way, and we're still carrying stuff. So Google it before I go into. I don't do a lot of quote unquote inner child work in my facilitation. Some people are right into it, and others, just allow it to be just one other separation that we tend to carry. As human beings, we tend to separate a lot of division, internal division between the mind and the emotions, for example. Right? We're all one energy, we're all one being, but we have a lot of different aspects. An inner child is just one of those aspects. Kind of like the wounded lover can be another one, right? That part of us that doesn't want to get disappointed again, or doesn't want to be vulnerable, right? A lot of us have a wounded lover inside of ourselves. Sorry, just sorting out my calendar talking to me. And so, yeah, it's it can be a minefield as people start to unravel into all of the various aspects of themselves, especially when they start realizing how effed up some of it is, right? How resistant some of it is. But it's just a matter of finding acceptance and being an allowance and holding good intent or holding high intention for good outcome, right, for ourselves and for others. And we recognize and find acceptance that there's various aspects of us that are stimulating our resistance. It really comes down to what is stimulating our resistance. With a little bit of inquiry, we quite often notice that it's an inner child part of ourselves that's scared of doing something, right? That doesn't want to risk that because that inner child doesn't feel safe. It's a part of us that quite often doesn't feel safe. And it's also a part of us that quite often yearns for a little bit more silliness, frivolity, fun in our life. And quite often, as indoctrinated adults, we don't give it to our inner child. We don't allow ourselves to satisfy that part of our soul, that part of our being, by cutting loose and doing childlike stuff, which some people would call childish stuff. Oh, that's just being childish. But quite often it's very, very deeply nurturing for us as a being to allow ourselves to do that. Hey, Sylvie's comment came through. How come? Sylvie, you just fixed it because I wasn't getting my comments up until then. I'm having to read off the screen and now it's just come through there. It's because you're replying. You're replying to your own comment and that came through, but I didn't see your original comment, which is over here, which is about lots of shame and guilt in my field right now to not be able to function as a teacher in time of crisis. And you probably can function as a teacher, Sylvie, in your own way. You just need to let go of your perceptions or your preconditions perspective, your perspective on yourself, which is always going to be harder than anyone else's perspective of you, that you're not doing a good enough job as a teacher, right? But no doubt you are sharing stuff with some people and you are operating as a teacher. And so focus on what you appreciate rather than allowing the guilt and the shame to take over your perception of yourself, right? So you're going to feel guilt and shame arise because that's what you're releasing. So it's not wrong to feel the guilt and the shame, but just don't allow it. Don't allow your mind to align with the guilt and shame and make yourself guilty and shameful based on what you think you're doing or not doing at this time, right? Because now your mind is trying to find reasons for why you feel guilty and ashamed, and it's making it real. So you feel guilty and ashamed according to your mind because you are not doing a good enough job of being a teacher in this time of crisis, which is a whole big fucking story, right? And not necessarily the truth, because you probably are being a good enough teacher for the right people in this time of whether it's crisis or whether it's growth. It doesn't really matter. But the point is, if you let go of that story and just allow yourself to say, wow, I'm feeling a lot of guilt and shame right now, it's because it's coming up to release, then guess what's going to happen with that guilt and shame? You got it. You're going to release it, right? So the stories that we use to justify how we're feeling is exactly what holds those feelings in place. So when you can feel the feelings, not deny them, and then bring an empowered story to it. Wow, this is what's come up to release right now. I'm feeling a lot of guilt and shame, and perhaps there's a lot from society as well. And not let your mind tell yourself a story as to why you're feeling that guilt and shame, not to justify it in the external world. If you get an inkling that, hey, I really feel that I'd like to be being better at teaching, then make ways of doing that in that are appropriate for you, right? And then be satisfied with that. Choose to be satisfied with that, as opposed to choose to think that that's not good enough. And we will get to it in the coming session. And I'll have to send you an email about that coming session too. Some crazy stuff happening. Who'd have thought that time slot would get so popular? But anyway, I'll send you an email. It's still a week away. Anywho, what else, my friends? I've probably done it, right? That's half an hour of chat with Matt. Hey, Christine. Sorry this has been a little bit disjointed with the comments not coming through up there on my phone and me having to... And they're not even flowing through on Facebook. Facebook has been very weird lately. I think it's probably overwhelmed. Yeah, well, no one really needs math at this time, Sylvie. So I wouldn't be feeling guilty about not being a great math teacher at this time. Good to hear, Mary. I'm glad your hubby's enjoying this chat. Yeah, awesome, Sylvie. Buttons are being pushed, and it is awesome time. It's a very, very fertile time. That's what it is. It's a very, very fertile time for us all to grow a lot right now. So be willing to allow ourselves to go through that process. As uncomfortable as it is, right? Growth is generally uncomfortable. And so now is the time to allow ourselves to have buttons pushed, fear and whatever buttons being pushed, but do so in an empowered way. Do so in with a level of understanding that this is me growing through stuff. This is not me failing. This is not me being persecuted by the external world. This is not a bad thing, a wrong thing, that I'm feeling all of this discordance based on what society is going through. Society's going through it. That's exactly what's happening, and there's no point getting contracted around that. All we can do is follow our heart in the moment, and make choices based on what we feel from our heart, and then allow things to ripple through, which includes a lot of our resistance coming up and a lot of maybe our grief coming up, or guilt and shame coming up, right? Or past fears coming up, that our mind wants to make sense of, and our job is to choose not to get too caught up in that making sense of it, because that always creates narratives and stories that slows down the process of actually releasing the emotional energy that's arising to be released, releasing those fragments of pain and trauma that are coming up to be released. So that's it, my friends. That's it in a nutshell. Stay aware of what you are experiencing. Stay compassionate to yourself as you experience it, and choose to stay disciplined with not allowing your narratives and stories to railroad you into maintaining energetic states that really don't need to be maintained, right? Releasing processes that we're all going through, and we can go through these waves quite quickly and effectively if we maintain an empowered, an expansive or mature attitude towards it. Hopefully that helps. That was Chat with Matt. I'll be back this time next week for more fun. If you're interested in online yoga, hit me up and I'll send you a link, and you can look at whether that's going to serve you. Send you a link. We don't really have a link. I don't know why I said that. I can tell you basically, if you want to get into it, you can send us a donation and we'll pop you in that group. It's like 110 people, would you believe, doing online yoga with us. It's an awesome community, and it's obviously in its infancy, but it's growing as people are opening up and sharing more and more stuff. People have been sending photos in of where they're doing their practice at home. Got photos of people doing it with their whole family in the garage. Awesome, right? So it's been very, very, it's been fun. And if you need some help from me, right, as in terms of get some facilitation, have a light language session, whatever, then reach out for that too. I'm here to serve people. I'm doing a fair bit of it at the moment, and it's awesome. And as I said, it's a very fertile time for making transformation, and I'm happy to look after you. Whatever you need, whatever's going on, reach out. Okay, my friends, bye for now. Namaste, Hari Om. I'll speak to you again soon. Bye. And I am intending to be more present in this group. I know I sort of fell off the bandwagon this last week. A combination of being very busy, of processing a lot of stuff, feeling a little bit removed from my insights, really, and what to share. But I made a strong commitment to myself just last night that I'm getting back on it. I'm getting back on the wagon. I fall off the wagon all the time. And I'm reasonably compassionate with myself about doing that, reasonably compassionate. So anyway, we just get back on, right? So here we go, giddy up. I will be posting some more stuff into this group more regularly. Bye for now. I'm getting off at this time.